Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Community Services Committee to order. Grimsby is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations such as the Hattawandrak, the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara and Grimsby stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, move to the approval of the agenda. And before we vote to approve the agenda, I'd like to introduce an amendment to consider item 9.1, report DCS 2605, Parks Master Plan Report, immediately following item 6.1, the Parks Master Plan Delegation. Can I get a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as amended? Okay, moved by Councillor DeFlavio, seconded by Member Breather. Resolved that the agenda for the Community Services Committee meeting on Tuesday, February 24th, 2026 be approved as amended. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Can I get a mover and a seconder to receive the previous minutes? Okay, moved by Member Laird, seconded by Councillor Howe. Resolved that the following meeting minutes be received. Community Services Committee, November 25th, 2025. Art Gallery Special Purpose Advisory Committee, December 4th, 2025. Grimsby Green Advisory Committee, January 8th, 2026. Age Friendly Advisory Committee, January 20th, 2026. Grimsby Green Advisory Committee, February 12th, 2026. And Age Friendly Advisory Committee, February 17th, 2026. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Moving on to delegations, we have a delegation from Leandra Coriel Ferguson and Stacey Zonneveld of Think Design regarding the Town of Grimsby's Parks Master Plan. And Leandra and Stacey, please go ahead. Oh, there
Hi,
you
everyone.
are. Okay. Hello, go ahead.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, that's great.
So I believe my colleague Leandra is having internet issues. So she might not be here. I think she's going to rejoin when she can, but I will take over in her place. So my name is Stacey Zonneveld. I'm a landscape architect and project manager at Think Design. My colleague Leandra is a planner and associate at Think Design. She's the project lead on this project. Our firm specializes in parks, recreation and trail, and waterfront master plans, as well as parks, public realm design. And we've had the pleasure of working with the staff here in Grimsby and the community to develop this parks master plan. Next slide, please. Our agenda is pretty straightforward. We'll provide an overview of the project and then key recommendations, followed by an overview of the implementation strategy. So let's start with the project overview on the next slide. So what is a master plan and how is it used? A master plan is a guiding principle strategic document, which guides planning and provision of parks services for the next 10 years. The plan's recommendations were developed using data from surveys, interviews, facility use, budget considerations, trends in the parks and recreation sector, as well as local opportunities and concurrent projects. It should be viewed as a living document to be updated and adjusted throughout the annual budget process, which may result in recommendations being delayed or amended to respond to changing circumstances. Some recommendations will require additional community consultation. So as I mentioned, the plan is high level. So when it comes to actually implementing recommendations, for example, it may involve coming up with the full design, which would involve community consultation. So it's understood that further consultation may be needed for some recommendations. I'm seeing Leandra's hand up, so
I'm here. Can you guys
You're
hear
here.
me? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me
we
okay?
can hear. Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Stacey, do you want me to take over?
Sure. I think just on the second last bullet
Plans
here.
must be some maybe amended.
Yeah,
Okay. Thanks. You're doing awesome, Stace.
thank you.
Okay. So it should be viewed as a living document. Is that where you were?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Yes, to be updated and adjusted through the annual budgeting process. So this may result in recommendations being advanced, delayed, or amended to respond to changing circumstances. Some recommendations will require additional community consultation. So as Stacy mentioned, the plan is high level. So when it comes to actually implementing, for example, a recommendation for a park improvement, that project will involve a full design process, which includes community consultation. Council, in consultation with municipal staff, will determine when and how initiatives are actually implemented. So in summary, the plan provides tools and suggestions to guide annual work. It's not a decision or commitment maker. So approving this plan does not involve committing funds. The recommendations coming out of this plan will then go into capital plans, which are then subject to approval by council. Next slide, please. Consultation was a very important part of the development of this plan and occurred throughout the timeframe. Activities included, for residents and community members, a random telephone survey of 300 households, 2 open houses and questionnaires at those open houses. One was at the beginning of the project, the second was to share draft recommendations. The online engagement platform, Let's Talk Grimsby. There were 951 total site visits, 90 survey submissions, and 74 idea contributions. And that page was updated throughout the process, letting people know the dates of consultations and a comment period for the draft plan. There were 3 on-the-ground engagement sessions and 2 youth engagement. For municipal representatives, there were 8 interviews with councillors and municipal staff, and a workshop with council official plan and transportation master plan teams. For partners and stakeholders, there was a user group survey and interview, and we had 8 user groups respond to that, and there were 4 council committee questionnaires sent out. Next slide. A little bit about the planning context in Grimsby. Grimsby's population is projected to grow significantly over the next 10 years, which is the timeline of this plan. Densification and increased population will bring more residents into compact neighborhoods and heighten demand for outdoor spaces. Parks will need to accommodate both passive uses for like relaxation, social gathering, as well as active uses such as sports. Ensuring adequate and diverse parkland throughout the town is critical to maintaining community health and livability. With that introduction, I will now pass it over to Stacy, who will give an overview of the plan's key recommendations.
Great. Thank you. So the next slides will be an overview of the key recommendations, like Leandra said. The slides align with the recommendation headings, which are also found in the report. So I'll start with park planning policy. These recommendations align with parkland policies with current Planning Act requirements. So key recommendations we're highlighting on this slide clarify when to require land versus cash in lieu fees, how to update the parkland dedication bylaw, and how to establish guidelines for POPs or privately owned public spaces. Other recommendations in this section found in the report focus on reserve park spending strategy and alternative dedication rates for high density developments. So in total, there are 6 recommendations in this category found in the report. Next slide, please. The environmentally centered park planning recommendations highlighted here aim to prepare an urban forest management plan with a canopy target, establish urban tree planting standards, and develop a shoreline management plan with the NPCA, considering both nature-based and engineering solutions. Some other recommendations focused on in the report include strengthening community engagement and partnerships, while others emphasize dedicated funding and regular process monitoring. So in total, there are 8 recommendations in this category in the report. Next slide focuses on accessibility and safety. So here we're highlighting recommendations that focus on making parks and outdoor spaces more inclusive and user-friendly for everyone. Key recommendations include conducting accessibility audits, upgrading trails, playgrounds, and amenities, and improving lighting for safety. In the report, these recommendations also emphasize accessible park services and programs, as well as working with local organizations to deliver accessible and inclusive activities. In total, there are 6 recommendations in this category. Next slide. Park activation recommendations aim to expand and promote recreational opportunities in parks. These include moving indoor programs outdoors, rotating events across different parks, and exploring a mobile activity center, as well as boosting awareness for park amenities through multiple communication channels. In total, there are 3 recommendations in this category in the report. Next slide, please. So the park classification and distribution recommendations focus on expanding and improving Grimsby's park system by updating the parkland classification table, reclassifying key parks, and acquiring additional parkland, as well as monitoring service levels as the population grows. Other recommendations include school partnerships for playgrounds, better pedestrian access, and improving connectivity along the shoreline. There are 20 recommendations in this category. And while I'm still on the slide, I'll just highlight the map here. This is a map we made, which is basically showing community and neighborhood parks in Grimsby. The neighborhood parks, we've given a 400-meter walking kind of radius around each one, whereas community parks have a larger radius of 800 meters. So neighborhood parks are in orange, community parks are in pink. So you can kind of see where there are gaps where no parks are kind of within those zones. The map is white. So we use this map to help us determine where new parks should go and what areas should be given priority. Next slide, please. The outdoor scheduled facilities recommendations focus on improving recreation planning in the using the town's ActiveNet software and providing additional unlit soccer, multi-sport purpose fields, and diamond by 2035. Also addressing other updates depending on demand. The recommendations pertain to following facilities: ball diamonds, soccer and multi-sports fields, rugby and football fields, tennis, pickleball, and bocce courts, and lawn bowling. So in total, there are 19 recommendations under this heading. Next slide, please. I believe this is my last one. Casual use outdoor facilities recommendations focus on creating diverse and innovative playgrounds, adding new outdoor learning areas around the new GO Station intensification area, and conducting feasibility studies for upgrades at the Peach King Center outdoor rink. The recommendations pertain to playgrounds, splash pads, courts, skate parks, outdoor rinks, exercise equipment, dog parks, disc golf, pump tracks, and table games. And there are 14 recommendations in this category. The plan also includes a section with site-specific recommendations for each of Grimsby's 48 parks, which cover elements like seating, shade, and potential locations for new outdoor amenities and facilities. It also incorporates recommendations that are carried over from the 2019 Parks, Recreation, and Culture Master Plan. So that's the overview of key recommendations. I'll pass it over to Leandra for the next section.
Thanks, Stace. Next slide. I will give you a brief overview of the implementation strategy on the next slide. In all, there are 125 recommendations to be implemented over a 10-year timeframe, with a total estimated cost of just over $28 million. But once again, I will remind that approving the plan does not commit those funds. These are cost estimates for the plan's recommendations, which are meant to provide guidance and informed suggestions. We've attempted to spread the cost over the plan's term, considering immediate needs and providing time to plan and apply for funding. The recommendations are also categorized as operating, capital, or studies. Operating includes strategic directions or tasks that can be done as part of regular workloads. Capital involves, for example, discrete costs for new facilities or amenities. And studies include, for example, the previously mentioned POPs guidelines or designs for parks. As noted in the beginning of the presentation, flexibility is key. Certain recommendations may need to be advanced or delayed or amended to respond to potential efficiencies or dependencies, or the availability of staff or other resources, such as grant funding. As a high-level plan, these costs are estimates. As staff is working on implementing the recommendations and integrating them into work plans and budgets, the costs will be further detailed and confirmed before being approved by council. And next slide. And that is it. Thank you for your time, and we'll be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you for your delegation, Stacy and Leandra. Do we have any questions from our committee? Councillor Howe.
If I can, thank you, Chair. And just a couple of little quick ones. When the strategy was being done and the outreach to, I'm looking up at you thinking that you're actually looking at me, but that's okay. But were those numbers sufficient? Were they about what is normal for this size municipality? Have you seen other municipalities that can do better? Obviously, there's going to be some that have done worse, but how have you got any thoughts how to increase participation beyond what we've done? That's number one. Let me throw a couple at you. The one line where it's 2 to 6 hectares for park space. That would be, what's the size of Southport? Hectares?
Huge.
Okay, so it'd be about the fifth of the size, but are you thinking for like sports fields, or what would be the thought on that? The GO station, and we're looking at that in the face with the GO station and high rises, and that is part and parcel. And you think of driving into Toronto along the lakeshore and all those high rises, are there parks in there? And if so, are they used? And in the very last page that you had, section park recommendations by site. That's a pretty big number. I don't know what that means, though, the park recommendations by site. So if you could rattle those off, or
Sure.
you want me to go over them again?
No, I can start. I am here.
Okay.
I just turned off my video to improve my internet connection. So hopefully I'm still good. You can still hear me?
Yep.
Great. Okay, so first one, consultation participation. How did we do in terms of how many numbers came out and how could you do better? I think overall we did well, especially with the online consultation. That was pretty good engagement. And the open houses were okay. I think it helped that it was combined with the other projects, the official plan and transportation master plan. Because if someone was interested in one of those other plans, they came out, and then oh, what's this over here? And then they come over and see the parks plan where they might not have come out for that originally. I think the user group, I don't remember how many were invited. So it kind of depends how many were invited versus how many responded. But 8, I think, is on the lower side, usually for how many numbers we get. But it really depends on the community. I think one way that we see large numbers there is just by having strong relationships with those clubs and frequent communication with them. Where staff and the clubs have sort of a closer relationship, they tend to come out more for consultation. And I guess another piece of advice I would give for open houses is to pair them with community events. We've had good success doing them, for example, at a community center on Family Day. We had stuff set up for kids, and yeah, that always goes over well. So that's my response for the first question. Second question about 2 to 6 hectares. Yes, that is to accommodate potential needed sports fields. So it's a little complicated, but the facility assessment said that there may be a need for an additional sport field or an additional ball diamond. However, those needs might be able to be met by improving existing facilities. So there's some work to be done there, further monitoring of use and kind of determining, is it brand new field needed, or can improvements be made to existing fields? So you may or may not need this large parcel for another field. Okay, so that's part 1. Part 2 is there are efficiencies when you put facilities together. So you may still decide, yes, we do want this large parcel so that we can fit multiple fields on it. And then this other underused field in this park over here, let's take that one out and put it together with this more complex of sport fields and use that park for a more community use playgrounds or something like that. And the 2 to 6 hectares kind of aligns with the park classification system and what is possibly realistic for Grimsby. And the last,
For
yes.
reference, Southwood is almost 35 hectares. So it's obviously a massive park.
Yeah. Thanks, Stace. And then the GO station. So we do have recommendations in the plan to accept parkland in that area, not cash in lieu. The parks will definitely be needed for that more intensified use. There's also a recommendation for a dog park in that area, as that's often needed for people living in apartment buildings or even townhouses with small yards. So I would say yes, in high density areas, there are parks and they are very much needed, especially because people don't have their personal private space. And park recommendations by site, Stacy touched on that. That was basically a way of summarizing, because there were still some small recommendations, like some are, just small landscaping things, for example, that were in the 2019 plan, and we didn't want them to get lost. So things that hadn't been done, we carried it over and then we combined it with what our plan said, and then just put them together in a table so it's an easy reference. Anything you want to add to that, Stacy?
I think that's clear. The table lets you look up a park and you can see all the recommendations in one section rather than all the recommendations by topic, which might be at different locations.
Councillor DeFlavia?
Thank you, Chair. Through you. So further to Councillor Howe's questions, I'm still trying to get my head around, and I'm sorry that if I didn't fully understand your response. So where is the 2 to 6 additional hectares going to come from? I guess I think you kind of answered that, but our urban area is built out. There's no green space left within the municipality. Everything that's not built is greenbelt land, so where we're not allowed to build parks. So I'm just trying to get my head around the additional parkland, like a clear answer about what that's going to look like and how that's possible.
Sure. Well, we didn't exactly identify a parcel or a spot where this was to occur because it's not known when this will be needed, and it's not known what opportunities will arise and what size that parcel will be. This is more of a high level direction of if you can assemble even a parcel that large. So let's say it's not you acquiring 2 hectares, say it's acquiring half a hectare or 1 hectare that is adjacent to an existing park. Now you've got that larger parcel. So just being high level, it's we're not really able to get a lot more specific than that. But this can be done through the development process, through negotiations with developers, or using cash in lieu funds, for example.
Okay, again, so we're in the process of completing our official plan. We know what land is available. So this should, through you, Chair, I apologize. This plan should be realistic based on what we know. And what we know is that there is not the opportunity in Grimsby to expand parkland in the manner in which is being suggested here. If the intent is to change the urban area, that's not something that's allowed. There is not this land within the municipality. Further to that, I would say that one of the arguments made when we built, and I'm going to say this again, and I'm sorry I sound like a broken record, was when Southward Park was built, the argument made was that we could consolidate parkland, we could eliminate some of the sports fields we had all over town and have one big park or two, that one in the Smith School soccer fields. This is suggesting that we're going to continue to expand parkland. I mean, it doesn't take, all you have to do is look at the official plan and see where the vacant land is to understand that there isn't the potential to expand parkland. There are a couple of opportunities there, if land is redeveloped, we could take parkland in the redevelopment, but again, there's not a significant amount of land to redevelop. And they would be little parkettes or parcels that are so small that it wouldn't make sense to take as parkland. It would be cash in lieu most likely that we would take. There's the waterfront trail, which is a significant parcel of land, but there's no indication that that's going to be completed anytime soon. So I'm concerned about us putting something in writing that's not something that we can actually do. So I'll just leave that at that. The next thing I wanted to ask about was what exactly counts towards the 3.05 hectares per 1,000 resident target. So I think you answered this at one of the previous meetings, but I just want to clarify. Does, a significant part of Grimsby is Niagara Escarpment land, for example. It's locked in as commission land. It can't be developed. It's not parkland, but it is greenfield. And so is it considered, is Conservation Authority land considered parkland, or is it only municipal land that's considered parkland? Is stormwater management land considered parkland if it's mixed use, or is it only, so for example, we have a lot of more parks built in the last 20 years where there's a stormwater management pond within the park where we have both, where we took advantage of the additional land and kind of sloped it and made the 100-year storm land capable of handling handling park use, unless there was a massive storm where there was significant flooding and pooling. So is all of that land considered passive natural area, considered is stuff adjacent to water courses down by the lake? Is that considered parkland? If that's all in your report, I apologize for missing it. But if you could speak to that briefly.
Sure. There is a little bit of discussion about the different components of the parkland system and the contributors. But when you're talking about the parkland provision rate, we're looking specifically at municipal parkland, that target, that's municipal only, and it would include those trails around a stormwater management pond. Like if the stormwater management pond has become a park, then yes, that would be included. But natural heritage areas and non-municipal land like conservation areas are not included. However, it is noted in the park that the amount of parkland and green space that they contribute is significant. And it provides a different ratio. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was something quite high, like 7 or 10 hectares per person, if you include all of that. So yeah, we did make note of that in the plan.
Thank you, through you, Chair. And I think that that's an important thing to note, not all, I mean, passive parkland is still parkland, NPCA land is still parkland. It's a significant park within the municipality. So I think that it does need to be noted and noted strongly that that is parkland within the town. Are we prioritizing optimization of existing parks before expanding our land inventory? So for example, are we improving, and you talked about your matrix or your chart that talked about specifics for each park. Does that include, improving shade in parks, improving accessibility, improving, and I think you mentioned field efficiency where, you might change the way that fields are laid out in order to get more instead of expanding the land. Multi-use design is all, when we talk about canopy, is canopy within parkland something that is,
Yes.
you're nodding yes, so.
Yes, to all of that, yes.
Okay, this is a question more for staff than for you. So if a new, let's say, new soccer club was created tomorrow, or a new baseball club was to be created tomorrow, would they have equal access to our sports fields? As, like, I'm going to use the Grimsby Soccer Club, for example, that contributed $200 and something thousand to Southward Park when it was built. And I don't want to get into the specifics of it, but if Nick created Nick's soccer club tomorrow, would I have equal access to those soccer fields as the Grimsby Soccer Club that has 50 years of partnership with the town of Grimsby? Is that something that is written into policy, or is that something that's just done through, informally? Like I just, since we're talking about these agreements, I want to make sure that those historic partnerships are maintained. So
I'll just see if Director Sweeney, if you want to answer that.
Sure, happy to answer. So allocation's not part of the Parks Master Plan specifically, so it won't, this plan wouldn't speak to that, but we would look to our allocation policies as to how we guide different requests for time. We do have prioritization, so not-for-profit youth, and it kind of goes through. So it kind of would depend a bit on what they're offering. If they're offering like-for-like services, we always try to get them to work together first rather than compete. It's always a better strategy. That said, sometimes it's not that simple. So it really depends. And I know that's always a tough answer, but it's the true answer. If they were offering a service that was different slightly than another entity, then that might be considered differently. But we would look to that allocation policy that does speak to sort of how we manage the prioritization of time.
Thank you, Chair. Just the reason why it comes up, I thought of it is because I've received, emails and phone calls in the past about for-profit organizations, and it's an issue in hockey, baseball, basketball, soccer, every volleyball, every youth sport, where because of the competition that's out there, people making money off of these kinds of organizations. And I want to make sure that not-for-profits and local organizations get priority over those for-profits that are coming in and have, they offer a service, and I don't want to disparage that. They have very often professional coaches and a lot of things that they can offer, but I still want to make sure that our grassroots organizations are protected. And so if that's an allocation thing, then I apologize for bringing it up now. It's just, it made me think of it when we were talking about the soccer fields and the need for expansion, and baseball diamonds, and rugby you mentioned as well. So those are all things that all organizations that have existed in Grimsby for decades, and that I want to make sure we protect. I'll let other people ask some questions now. Thanks, Chair.
Sarah, did you want to chime in?
Thanks through the chair. Just one other comment. So we did do the gymnasium allocation policy just a few months ago that you guys approved. So that's similar to what the sports fields and ice policies have. And just so you know, it is our work plan this year to update those as well. So you are going to see them hopefully before the end of this term as well, an update to those. But I can certainly share you the current allocation policy if you want to see it as well.
Okay, I think we're going to go for a second round, so I will ask just a few questions. Could you just clarify? So I think it was in the, it was actually in the plan. It had said that Grimsby had the least amount of parkland in all of Niagara. Did I read that correctly? Because I was a little startled by that.
Let me pull it up. That would have been talking about the comparative analysis that we did. So I wouldn't say necessarily all of Niagara, it's of the municipalities that we used in the comparison. Let me see if I can find it.
I feel like I read something specifically that it said that we had the least amount of parkland. And this is, looking into 2051 and with our official plan with the density. So it might not be now, but it's looking into the future.
Well, I can't find it right now in the plan, but we did do a comparative analysis. We usually choose, I don't know, 5 to 10 municipalities that are comparable either in terms of geography, size, like geographic size, population distribution, if they have waterfront, if they're tourism attracting, like we choose a variety of factors that make them comparable. And we look at, different, the amount of parkland in different park amenities and compare. So it might have been the case that Grimsby had the lowest provision rate out of those comparators. I don't recall right now.
Okay, and I noticed that Tecumseh was mentioned as well. Why did we use Tecumseh?
Ooh, I don't recall. Stacey, do you
Councillor
recall,
Howe
or
says it's because
Sarah?
he's from there.
Why did we use it? I don't recall off the top of my head. It would have been that it shares one of those factors that I've listed.
Yeah, I had looked up the size and it's a little bit bigger. We're a little more dense, but yeah, I just wasn't sure about that. With the cash in lieu, so I don't know if this is a question or a statement, but I'm of the opinion that I would like to try to get as much parkland as we can. So I'm not one to just, try to consolidate, fix up the ones that we have and just sell off our parkland because it's going to be very hard to get any of that parkland back. So I'm just wondering with the cash in lieu, do you see any potential issues for us if we are using the cash in lieu policy in the future on the regular? And I don't even know if that's something that you can predict, but if you have any feedback, I'd appreciate it.
The plan did have recommendations about cash in lieu, which I feel are very protective of the parkland system. For example, in the intensification areas, it was do not accept cash in lieu because parkland is going to be needed. There's also accepting another recommendation to, again, accept parkland, not cash in lieu, unless the development is already within a 400 to 800 meter radius of another park. And, judging the density and the size of that existing park. Thanks, Stacey. Yeah, if there's already a park that can service the new development, in that case, you can consider collecting cash in lieu. So there's a lot of sort of protections in there. Says, if this, then this, if that, then that. For above the escarpment, for example, I don't think there's going to be a lot of development up there. If there is, the recommendation is to collect cash in lieu, and that cash in lieu be put towards Southward or the park at Alway Community Center, because it makes more sense to improve those existing parks in that area rather than having a small scattered park somewhere else. So I think that if the official plan works with the parks plan and takes those things into account, I think I'm not concerned about that.
Okay, so last question for me relates to tourism. So, and again, this personal opinion for me is quality of life for the people that live here now is where I'm focused, not necessarily attracting people from outside of Grimsby to come to our park spaces. I think there was mention that our new Casablanca Waterfront Park is quite busy and there's a lot of people coming from out of town, which is lovely, but you know, considering that our people aren't necessarily able to use it as much because maybe the parking is full or whatever, you know, my priority is with the Grimsby residents. So when we were developing this plan, what would you say, where were you kind of focused as far as like prioritizing residents to tourism initiatives? Like I said, for me, my priority is for the people that live here. So if you maybe even have a percentage or a lens that you can, you know, share as far as where you were looking in this plan.
Sure. This plan did not have a strong focus on tourism. I just did a quick search. There, tourism shows up once in the plan, and it showed up in consultation under where people had key themes. It was coming up, and then throughout the plan, it really only came up in the parkland classification table, where we noted that a regional park may be the type of park that has capacity or attracts visitors. And so just acknowledging that and, you know, but it also is attracting people from across the town. So it either way, it's a park that has higher numbers. So just having the amenities to go with that. But there is no, we didn't get into depth about tourism development at parks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Howe.
Thank you, Chair. To pick up, ladies, to pick up on something that we talked earlier, and I asked about the 2 to 5 and Councillor DeFlavio asked about it. But then obviously 1 + 1 in my mind always adds up to 3. But I think what you said is that it doesn't have to be all in one parcel. That's like an aggregate number of what you're suggesting. 2 to 6 acres of more, you know, playground or parkland, whatever you want to refer to it as. Is that what you were saying?
No, actually, that recommendation is for one parcel of
Okay.
that size. And I
Thank
will
you.
add, okay, sure.
Sorry, Leandra, did you want to add something there?
I was just going to add, because I didn't respond when Councillor DeFlavio had spoken on it, but we have been working with planning. They have reviewed the draft a couple of times. This wasn't flagged. They weren't concerned by that recommendation, but we can still, you know, take this back. I can discuss it with Sarah a bit more afterwards.
Are there any further questions from our committee? No? Okay. Resolved. So thank you again for your delegations. Resolved that the delegation from Leandra Coriel Ferguson and Stacy Zonneveld of Think Design regarding the Town of Grimsby's Parks Master Plan be received for information. All in favor? That is carried. And now we will consider report DCS 2605 Parks Master Plan Report. Can I get a mover and a seconder to get the report on the floor for discussion? Okay, moved by Member Laird and seconded by Councillor Howe. And Sarah, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So we don't really have a whole lot more to add. I think a lot of the questions were likely covered through the presentation portion of it. So just happy to open up for any questions that people have. Do you have any questions from the committee? Okay, I think we have them all covered. Actually, we're just going to get into specifics. Dog park. Do we really need them in Grimsby on the lake? My priorities for the people in Grimsby, I think we do have the lovely dog park down by the lake. A lot of people drive there. I don't know that we need to use our parkland for dog
parks. If you can chime in, Sarah.
Through you, Chair. So as you recall, this was a specific item that came through, a counselor had put a notice of motion. So we did do specific work on dog parks in this plan for that reason. I do think that especially, what we need today versus what we need when we consider those growth numbers that we did incorporate into this plan. I do think the future need for an additional dog park may very well exist, especially in those areas where people don't have the yard spaces and all of that to use. Certainly the park that we find over in Mayfair gets very heavily used. It gets quite a bit of use. So I do think that potential is there to need as we go on forward down through the plan. And I just want to mention as well, again, this plan did take a lot of extra time because we did finish it up or near finish it up. And then we did go back and add in those growth numbers as well. So it is looking at those future numbers potentially as well.
I'm just going to finish up and Counselor, okay, Counselor DeFabio.
Thank you, Chair. To you. So just further to that, as far as the dog park goes in Grimsby on the Lake, people currently use the road allowance, the unopened road allowance at the end of Oaks Road, which isn't really a dog park, but has traditionally been used as a dog park. It doesn't have fencing. Dogs can get loose because there's all kinds of issues with it. There's other land in Grimsby on the Lake that is our parkettes next to that we took next to some existing developments down there that would probably be a more appropriate use of land than what's being used as a dog park now. So when it comes to that, I would prefer that we repurpose that road allowance, took the fence down, opened it up to pedestrians so people can walk down there without having to worry about dogs jumping on them, frankly, and have a purpose-built fenced-off dog park in that area. And I think that the parcel of land on the other side of the water course down there that's currently sitting vacant, as that just grass that we cut, could be easily fenced off. It's north of the LJM development there. There was a parcel of land there that's sitting vacant. I think that would be an appropriate place for a dog park and better than what we currently are allowing people to use just because it was just something people always used. And we kind of continued that use, but it's not a great dog park because of the way it's designed. When you go to a dog park, you don't want your dog to be able to escape, for example. And my dog has escaped several times into the high grass there. And because of that, you get ticks and you get other things that come with that. So I think that we could probably repurpose some land down there. We don't have to buy more land to make it better.
Just a few more notes too. Question about the outdoor rink. So we're looking at a feasibility study before maintaining. I don't know. I'm assuming this has to do with the big ticket item that needs replacing. So if you can just comment on that, and also the disc golf. I thought we had eliminated that as an option. So, okay.
Yeah, through you, Chair. So the outdoor rink is probably at the end of its useful life. So it is going to need a bigger decision in terms of investment. We are going to do some additional work and bring that forward to committee. That will be next year. That won't be this year. Just looking at what the long-term potential or plan is for that and to what degree do we want to make an investment into that space. So that's something that you will see coming in future years. And in terms of disc golf, so we did do quite a bit of looking at disc golf. We met with some individuals that have a lot of experience in the sport. We did look at Centennial Park specifically at one point in time. I will say, having gone and tested it with them, we determined that just was not a good fit. However, it did come up still quite a bit in the plan. So you see it in the plan because it was spoken to a number of times. If something changed and a different opportunity came up down the road, not to say we would never consider it, but I've talked to a few of the enthusiasts in the community as well. We really just don't have a park space that exists that supports that well at this time. But we did, again, just want to acknowledge that we did hear that interest quite a bit.
Thank you. Just a comment to, just to clarify, this is a living document and this is basically just us having the conversation about these so that, but everything will always come to council before, right? I appreciate that. Okay, Sarah?
And through the chair, if I may, and I think that's just a really important part with this plan is, we know what we know today, but a lot of things can change in 2 years, 4 years, 8 years, and it is a 10-year plan. So it guides, it's intended to guide our decisions, to recognize what we heard, what we should prioritize, what we should consider. But all of the actions and all of the budget items will always come through capital plans, council. So it would be all the regular cadence. So there's no commitments being made in this plan. It's just that guidance that we can use to how we form the decisions and what we bring forward.
Okay, I lied. I'm going to have one more question. You might not even be able to answer this. I'm just wondering, as far as official plan status, when a developer comes forward, if we, are depleted of parkland and they're pushing us, do we have a leg to stand on as far as like saying, no, we need this because we don't have enough of this parkland in Grimsby? Sarah?
So through you, Chair, yes, that's partly what makes these plans helpful, right? Is you look to these plans to guide why we would say we need the park space. Not being as well versed in the planning details, is that going to be the be all and only decision maker on certain items? Maybe not, but certainly it strengthens that intention and that effort if it is identified in the master plan as a priority. The other thing is, things like development charge reviews and all of these types of things, we use these plans to inform development charges as well. So there's a lot of reasons to have these plans in place so that we can put a lot of that forecasting in.
That's great. Thank you. And I appreciate the fact that we are doing all of these plans in the same year. It really helps because we have a much more holistic view of how this all fits together. So, okay, given that there are no more questions, resolve that report DCS 2605, Parks Master Plan Report dated February 24th, 2026 be received, and that committee recommend that council approve in principle the Parks Master Plan and the recommendations contained within. All in favor? And that is carried. Right, museum business. Our first item of museum business tonight is report DCS 2603, Museum Information Report, February 2026. Can I get a mover and a seconder to get this report on the floor for discussion? Okay, moved by Councillor DeFlavio, seconded by Councillor Howe. And Janet, please go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So the museum has had a great start to the year. We have some great upcoming events. We have a museum talk series, including the history of maple syrup, which includes the Great Maple Syrup Heist. We have Alan Cross coming back on March 26th. We had him here January 29th for a sold out show. It was amazing. So if you would like to come out, there are still tickets available to the March 26th show. And we also have How to Get Away with Murder Twice coming in April. That should be great. March break is fully booked and it's selling well. We have some great programs coming up, including cross stitch, and our very popular calligraphy workshops are also coming back. Fantasy of Trees was a huge success yet again. They had their best year ever, and it went very smoothly for us and for them, which was a fantastic thing for the museum as well as for Rotary. We also held our Christmas winter market, first one we've ever had, and we had great feedback from the community as well as from our vendors. We have a great exhibit a traveling exhibit from Ottawa at the moment. It is called Cipher to Cipher. It is extremely interactive, lots of computers, things for kids to play with and touch. Come on down. It's all about spies and cracking codes. And we also have an actual Enigma machine in the exhibit. So it's beautiful and it's wonderful. If you're interested in history, come and see it. That's my museum nerd coming out. I apologize. And in June, we have a great community exhibit from the Grimsby Photography Club. They will be putting on a Niagara and Grimsby based photography exhibit, and it'll all be original works. They will all be for sale, so come on and see that in June. Some great things coming out of our educational programs. We are now in 3 schools doing lunch programming, how to be a museum curator or how to work in a museum. All of ours are sold out. We are in Lady of Fatima, and we are in Central School and in Park School, and everybody seems to be enjoying themselves very much in those. We are excited to expand these programs into the future, maybe moving to other schools as they get excited about this program. We are still waiting on the foundation repairs. They are set to go in March, but there will be no disruption to March break as at the moment. We are also undertaking the museum strategic plan this year. The Grimsby Public Art Gallery and the Grimsby Museum are both undertaking cultural strategic plans. This process will guide our future and strengthen our programs, services, and community connections. So we put out an RFP for this, and the strategic plan has been awarded to Studio Dawson. This consultant, the museum and the art gallery have been working on phase 1, which is now complete. That we've had one community consultation, staff consultations, and a staff consultation that happened yesterday. And there is a virtual community consultation tomorrow, February 25th. So those we're going out, we're getting some great feedback from the community as well as from town staff. The development of the 5-year cultural strategic plan for the museum and the art gallery will be guided by a structured set of deliverables designed to ensure thoughtful, inclusive, and data-informed processes, beginning with a detailed project work plan timeline and the initiative will establish a clear roadmap for achieving meaningful and sustainable outcomes. A comprehensive cultural asset map and a SWOT analysis will lay the groundwork by identifying existing resource gaps, opportunities within the Grimsby cultural landscape. Community engagement will play a central role in shaping the strategy with a summary report capturing the voices and priorities of residents, artists, and stakeholders. These foundational elements will inform a strategic framework defining vision, mission, and goals, which will serve as a basis for the draft and the final cultural strategic plans to support the effective communication, adoption, presentation, to support effective communication and adoption, presentation materials will be developed for use with town council, stakeholders, and the broader community. Together, these deliverables will map a path towards a vibrant, inclusive, and resilient cultural future for Grimsby. So that is well underway, and we are excited for that to come forward to this committee as well as to council. Moving on to grants, we have received our feedback from our CMOG grant last year. That is the Community Museum Operating Grant, which is the museum's operating grant. We were required to create a digitization strategy, and our feedback was, based on our review, the museum has successfully met the community standards and collection standards this year. Your strategy demonstrated the museum's existing digital capacity as well as plans for digital services in the future that will enhance the museum's capacity to engage the community and preserve history. This is a great feedback from the granting body. We received a 10 out of 10 on our plan, so that is absolutely great for us. We were very excited about that, and we gave ourselves a big pat on the back. We received a grant for the Cipher to Cipher exhibit. Originally, the granting body told us they were out of money. However, we received a surprise email and they granted us $7,800 towards that. So that is really great for the museum. And we have recently applied to Celebrate Canada and Young Canada Works, and we will keep you informed as to the outcome of those.
Thank you, Janet. That's wonderful on the grant. And do we have any questions from the committee? No. All right. Resolve that report DCS 2603, Grimsby Museum Information Report, February 2026, dated February 24th, 2026, be received for information. All in favor? Okay, and that's carried. And the second and final piece of museum business is report DCS 2604, Grimsby Museum Annual Report 2025. Can I get a mover and a seconder to get this report on the floor for discussion? Okay, moved by Member Laird and seconded by Member Breather. Perfect. Janet, please go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Chair. The museum has to create an annual report every year for our CMOG grant, our Community Museum Operating Grant. So we have to show our annual activities and what we have accomplished during the year. This report has to include staff development, maintenance, curatorial activities such as research and collections management, conservation, exhibitions, interpretation and education, marketing, public relations, and governance and policy. So just as an overview of what we accomplished this year, the museum saw continuing growth and expansion within our community. Our programming continued to succeed and proved popular. Museum staff pushed themselves to achieve great things. The museum completed our permanent gallery called Grimsby Our Story. This project was many years in the making, and due to the support of the town of Grimsby and the government of Canada, we are ecstatic that is finally open. We hosted 5,402 visitors in 2025, which was aligning with the museum's performance objectives. We continue to expand our programming this year. We presented free drop-in events, March break events, graveyard and beach tours. This is our first year for beach tours since COVID, and they were they were very widely liked. They sold out. We did Canada Day, Spirits with Spirits, a summer artisan market, a Christmas artisan market, the Glam Gala, and many more, including Alan Cross, who has come back numerous times and continues to be a great supporter of the museum. We hosted the 3rd annual Glam Gala. The staff of the 3 institutions put on a great event at the Grimsby Public Library and the Art Gallery. We had amazing sponsors, great food, and great entertainment. We also expanded our volunteer program this year, welcoming more in-person volunteers while continuing our amazing Transcribing from Home project. Our volunteers continue to be very invested and engaged with all the projects they were given. By the end of 2025, our volunteers had done 706 adult in-person volunteer hours, 333.5 youth volunteer hours, and 55 at-home volunteer hours for a total of 1,094.5 hours. That's over 100 hours more than we had in 2024. We are indebted to the volunteers because without them, most of our projects probably wouldn't get off the ground. The museum also partnered with the planning department and Willowbank School for Heritage Week. We restored some artifacts from the museum collection. These included 2 wooden chests, one belonging to the Nellis family, and a shattered stained glass window from Grimsby Beach, as well as a desk from the Marsh Planning Mill. The museum hosted summer camps, and we also hosted the Rotary's Fantasy of Trees, as we do every year. We worked with the Community Services Department several times throughout the year, including Canada Day and many others. And we continue to grow our relationship within the community and within the Community Services Department. We continue to work with other cultural institutions within Grimsby. So we thank you for reading our report, and we look forward to any comments.
Okay, thank you, Janet. Do we have any questions from the committee? Okay, resolved that report. Actually, I do have a few questions, so sorry. No, this is great. So this is for are you getting a lot of volunteers? Like, do you want me to continually suggest that volunteers come to you?
Through your chair, at the moment, we're actually stopping adding new volunteers because right now we have so many and we're just sort of overwhelmed with that. Once we get everybody onboarded and get the projects underway, we will start to bring in more volunteers. Youth volunteers are always welcome to send us their requests for volunteer hours. We have a really easy time getting them into programming, and I know we can always offer their services and offer them jobs with the town as well. There's a lot of events coming up that could use the youth volunteers. So youth volunteers, and Melissa knows, youth volunteers are always welcome. But for in-person and at-home volunteers, we actually have to put a stay on that just for now until we get sort of everybody onboarded, because we do have about 40 volunteers right now, and that's a lot. So we love every one of them, but it's a lot.
No, that's great. And it'd be great if we could somehow get a resource online connecting, because I know kids are always looking for volunteer hours. So if we know exactly where to look, then that would be very helpful. And I know there's always growth in all of our community, our library, museum. Where would you say like the demographic of the people that are coming visiting and enjoying your programs most? Is it older adults? Is it the camps? What would you say?
Through your chair, what we're seeing right now is families, either young families with young kids coming to our free drop-in events that we have every month, or it's younger families, parents bringing their sort of 9-10-year-olds to our hands-on programming that just requires adult supervision. So, we do have, for our talks, it is a very mixed demographic. Alan Cross brings everybody from because it's a 19+ show, just because we serve alcohol at the show. So from 19 all the way up to, I'd say, the seniors are all coming to our talks. It all depends what the topic is. We're hoping to bring talks that will bring people to the museum of all age demographics. But for our specific programming, it's usually younger families that are coming in at the moment.
Okay, that's great information. Thank you. All right, that's it for me. So where are we here? All right, resolve that report DCS 26-4 Grimsby Museum Annual Report dated February 24th, 2026 be received for information. All in favor? And that's carried. Moving on to consent reports. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the consent report? Moved by Councillor Howe, seconded by Member Laird. Resolved that the Community Services Committee hereby approves the following item and that the consent item be approved on the recommendations as contained here therein. DCS 2607, Grimsby Farmers Market Road Closure 2026. One, that report DCS 2607, Grimsby Farmers Market Road Closure 2026 dated February 24th, 2026 be received for information. And two, that council endorse Grimsby Farmers Market related road closures on Main Street should the downtown reimagined construction schedule permit be forwarded for approval by the Niagara region. All in favor? Okay, and that's carried. Discussion reports. We have already completed the Parks Master Plan report. So moving on to happening in Grimsby road closure 2026, that's DCS 2606. All right, can I get a mover and a seconder to get this report on the floor for discussion? Okay, moved by Councillor Howe, seconded by Member Laird. And I believe it's Sarah that's leading this. Thank you, Sarah.
Through the chair, we're actually going to have Melissa Rusich speak to this one.
Sorry, you did mention that. Go ahead, Melissa.
Through you, Chair. So based on feedback received from the downtown business community and other stakeholders, the town adjusted the Downtown Reimagine project construction schedule to a two-phase approach over 2026 and 2027. With this approach, the construction schedule is supposed to accommodate the Happening Festival on Main Street from June 18th to the 20th, 2026. And as such, will remain on Main Street operating as it has in previous years. During the 2026 construction phase, the happening will not be able to be hosted on Main Street depending on construction, in which case the festival will be relocated to the Major Refrigeration Peach King Center. The event schedule looks much like it has in years past, with the event beginning on Thursday, June 18th, kicking off with the farmers market. The road will remain closed and go into Friday with lunch on the lawn, live music in downtown Grimsby, and continue into Saturday with the extended road closure on Main Street between Patton and Christie Street. The committee has been working with Fire, Niagara Regional Police, and EMS to help facilitate the closure and plan accordingly. The town of Grimsby contributes in-kind resources that are primarily focused on staff support and event logistics, contributing a monetary sponsorship of $8,000 for this event annually, which is incorporated into existing operating budget. So it is recommended that the permit application for the event road closure be supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? No. All right, resolve that report DCS 2606 happening in Grimsby road closure 2026 dated February 24th, 2026 be received. And one, that the Community Services Committee recommend that council endorse the event related road closures on Main Street West from June 18th to 2026 to be forwarded for approval to the Niagara region. All in favor? Okay, and that is carried. Next is report DCS 2608 Community Services Department update, February 2026. Can I get a mover and a seconder to get this report on the floor for discussion? Okay, moved by Member Breather, seconded by Member Laird. And Sarah, please go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm going to kick it off and then Trevor's going to cover some of it as well. So we did recently complete our tree inventory. We worked with a company, Davey Tree, to do that. So we have now done inventory of all of our trees in all of our parks, and that is all in our GIS system. And there's an image that sort of shows you what that looks like in the report. This is a really great project for us to have completed. We'll use it for maintenance considerations, future planting considerations, and just doing more analysis on where our tree canopy is stronger or weaker throughout our parks and how we can sort of build upon that. So it was great to have that work completed. And it will also go towards a future tree management program as well that we develop. And Trevor's going to speak to the Peach King Center component, and then I'll come back to me.
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, just wanted to cover some information about the Major Refrigeration Beach King Center opening, which was almost exactly a month ago, exactly a month ago today. I think I speak for behalf of all of our staff that it feels like much longer ago than that, given how busy things have been. But yeah, just to recap, the grand opening that was on January 24th. We had incredible turnout from the community. I think we had high expectations as a staff team, and they were certainly met by the turnout from the community. We estimate the opening ceremony alone had over 300 people in attendance, and over 1,500 attended over the course of the day. And yeah, we had incredible feedback, getting the community through, checking out all the different spaces, inquiries about what the facility offered. And overall was a really good vibe, very good community event. I do want to thank Melissa from our team who's here, who did an excellent job with all those little tiny touches that make it feel like home. And I think it really put us on strong footing for the days and weeks that have come since then. So within the facility, the gymnasium is obviously one of our major anchors of the space, and we are already seeing really great utilization in that gymnasium. It was a little tricky from an allocation standpoint because we were opening kind of mid-season for a lot of our traditional users like basketball and volleyball, but we really did see the uptake be very strong. And I don't think anybody will be surprised to hear that the demand for pickleball has been overwhelming, and we've been doing our very best to meet those needs in the community in the various different ways that they'd like to engage. One of the big things I heard it 100 times the day we opened and the day since then was the demand for drop-in programs, which is something new for us. Typically, like in our arenas, it's a lot of scheduled programming offered by third-party users, and we do have some drop-ins, but it's fairly limited. So we really have been adding drop-in programs, and we have been adding them over the last 4 or 5 weeks, and are really starting to see our drop-in programs fill. We just had drop-in volleyball this past Thursday, and it actually sold out. And that's, again, only 4 weeks in. So we're really pleased with that. So as we're getting feedback from the community, we're adding more and more drop-in times. What's nice about that model too with drop-ins is we can kind of fit them in wherever we can and cancel them if we need to, if we have tournaments and things. So it's a good flexible model that helps use this space. We are continuing to refine the allocation of gymnasium. It will obviously change as we move into the spring and summer season, and then back into the fall of next year. Only above the gymnasium in terms of interest and demand has been our indoor track. I would say overall this has been one of the most valued features of the facility. I think the cold weather and snow has definitely contributed to this, but the volume on that track has been incredible. Often anywhere between 30 and 50 people at a time, and it's very much a steady pace throughout the entire day. We have had some challenges with the indoor track in terms of having it as a open, free use model. Daytime is no problem, but once we get into the evenings and the weekends, in particular, if we have hockey tournaments, we have had issues with unsupervised youth, hockey teams who aren't following the rules. And due to the overall activity level in the facility, our staff are doing their best to, get up there and monitor, but ultimately can be challenging to be up there at all times. We have improved just today and received new signage to help reinforce expectations, including that hockey warmups and teams are no longer permitted on that space. So we're hoping that we do see some change in behavior, but should concerns persist, we may need to investigate alternative approaches to managing that space. And I'm sure that's a discussion we'll have shortly. Options could include implementing an access control system where we could have a key fob access that's tied to a membership for a nominal fee. So there are some options we can explore. But overall, I would say feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. It brings so many people into the facility, and once they get in the facility and they're participating in the walking track and the indoor track, it gives them exposure to the other things that we offer, including our 55+ programming and other sports. So I think it's been great to see kind of just the overall use of that facility. The fitness center on the second floor has had a great start. I think with the cool weather and just being close to the new year, we've seen really, really strong demand for the memberships for that. So in the first 4 weeks, we've sold more than 200 fitness memberships. So that's more than we ever sold in the previous fitness center in the old facility, which is really great. And we're still seeing strong growth, a lot of interest in our personal training, and really a wide variety of demographics who are choosing to participate in that space. So that's been a big positive for our team as well. As part of the move, our fitness programs have transitioned from they were somewhere at the Peach King Center, or most were at the Peach King Center. Everything went to Livingston Activity Center during construction. And now we've welcomed almost everything back. We're slowly just moving the final activities over from the Livingston Activity Center. And we're still just, settling in, but overall, this new fitness studio and being able to leverage the walking track and the fitness center for our Happy Hearts program, our cardio exercise program, has been really great. And we're still kind of settling in there. One of the biggest moves for us has been the transition of the Grimsby 55+ Active Living Club from the Livingston Activity Center to the MRPKC. So all programming from our Active Living Club took place at the Livingston Activity Center, and that has now all been moved over to the MRPKC. So that's for programming such as card games, billiards, mahjong, quilting, craft guild, pickleball, social programming. So this has definitely been a big adjustment, not just for our users, but also for our staff. The Livingston Activity Center had been home for many, many years, and we've certainly are still working through the transition with many of our members. I think overall it's been positive, but I think you're moving from more of a dedicated use environment to a shared use environment, and it's just a matter of kind of working with the team and setting expectations as we move into the new space. But what we are seeing is growth. So at this time last year, currently we've sold 200 more memberships than we had. So we're not seeing, that's not necessarily not just net new growth, but also just that interest of getting in early. And we're seeing our program is filling up very quickly through that club, which is fantastic. With the reopening of the facility, we've also seen renewed interest in hosting programming, events, and tournaments. Niagara Home Show will be hosting a 3-day event in April on the North Star Arena pad. And we previously used to have a home show, I want to say going back to 2017, 2018. This will be the first time to see it return. And just chatting with the event organizers, having the new parking lot, the sidewalks, the additional passive spaces in the facilities make it that much more of an attractive area to host these types of events. And that typically is our off season after ice. So this helps keep the building busy in the spring. We'll also be hosting part of the Can-Am volleyball tournament in March. It's being held out of the Canada Game Center in Thorold and here, which is great. So they'll be utilizing 2 volleyball courts over the course of the weekend. Another user in the facility has been Inclusion West Niagara, which has rebranded, that's Community Living rebranded, and they're actually using multi-purpose rooms as part of their day programming. So they have fitness classes, social programming for their members, and it's great to see them out in our facility. As part of the transition, our community services, customer service operations have relocated to the MRPKC. I do want to give a shout out to our customer service team. Things are starting to settle in now, but I can tell you, and having stood there and watched it myself, the phone call, in-person, email, letters, the volume has been truly incredible, and they've done, I think, a great job managing customer demand, answering as many questions as we can, and continuing just trying to put on answer everything we can, and keep passing information on how things are changing. So overall, I think the opening has been a success. We're seeing very strong demand. I think the common phrase we kept hearing when we were building is, if you will build it, they will come, and they are coming. They are coming a lot, which is great. And it's been really great to get the community in. We're getting overall tons of feedback. There have been some wrinkles, and our team's working hard to iron them all out. But overall, what's driving those, I think, is just overwhelming demand, and we're working really hard to continue meeting that. So this is, again, initial weeks, and we're still kind of refining the plan. So a comprehensive report on the project will be coming to council on March 23rd. That will include a detailed update on the overall project, the construction, operational planning, utilization trends, revenue performance, and some of the key achievements. And we'll have some more detailed information about our schedule and some metrics to share with you at that time. I'll pass it back to Sarah.
Thanks, Trevor. And I just want to echo the same. The staff team has just been collectively working so hard, right down to our maintenance staff as well, who have a lot more glass to clean now. And certainly when you open a new facility, hearing that, keeping up with the demand it's a pretty good problem to have. But it is a challenge, and we just ask for your patience as we continue to work through a variety of different things as we continue to grow and change. So moving on through the report, we have another digital newsletter that recently came out. We are trying to transition more towards a subscribed digital newsletter, so you will see more of that coming from us. And also looking at how we can better communicate some of the different offerings we have. So as we continue forward, we'll be looking at how we leverage those newsletters even further, considering leisure guides and different publications that we do. But there's quite a good subscribership, over 1,000 already, and we do think that's something we can keep growing. We also know we can see from the campaigns that we do how many people open them, to what degree do they interact with them, and it's a pretty good response rate and an open rate that we're receiving, so that's good news. The Livingston Activity Center, as Trevor mentioned, most of the programs have now moved over. The Niagara Region Day program does remain in the front of the building, as well as a few other activities. Mostly we have a church group that's in there on Sundays. And I will be bringing a report in March to council to talk about the next steps for the Livingston Activity Center, because I know there's some questions about that. Pickleball, we just wanted to give an update. As we know, we talked about pickleball quite a bit at the early part of the year. You were all a part of those conversations as we tried to determine or arrange for a better usage plan at Mayfair Park. And we're really pleased to tell you that it worked out really well. Some of the metrics that we were able to, 676 public court bookings, for example, over the course of the season, which is really great. There's always a couple little things that we can iron out and improve upon, but overall, I think the schedule that we were able to achieve did work really well for both parties. So we are suggesting to more or less keep that same schedule going forward. We know some things may change a little bit now with the Peach King Center open and indoor opportunities available as well, but on the outdoor courts, it did seem to work quite well. So it was good news. LED lighting upgrades were completed at Fire Station 1, Elizabeth Street Pump House, and the Operations Center. So that is a good project for us to have completed. That will give us some energy efficiency, some cost savings, but also does improve the lighting as a whole. For special events, just wanted to highlight that quite a number of events took place since we last spoke. Town tree lighting, Santa Claus Parade, all very successful. This year with the Santa Claus Parade, as was mentioned in the report, we did use an external agency for some of our traffic control. It's just become a lot harder to rely on some of the resources we've used in the past to safely do that. And that did work out quite well. So that is an expense that we absorbed in the 2025 budget, and we'll be looking to do it again in future years. The New Year's Eve levy was quite well attended. The grand opening Trevor spoke to, but did want to acknowledge as well Family Day, because again, it's another example of if we build it, they're coming, whether we're ready or not. Melissa did a great job planning the events of that day, and estimate that we had over 1,700 people come throughout the day, which is a incredibly large increase in numbers as opposed to previous years. So again, just speaks to a good problem that we have, but one nevertheless that we are having to work through, which is really strong volumes of people coming through and visiting. Upcoming, we have the 55 Plus Active Living Fair on Friday, March the 6th. That will be at the Major Refrigeration Peach King Center during the daytime. Encourage you to come by and check that out. And that's all.
All right. Do we have any questions from the committee? All right, so my questions. All right, so we'll start with you, Trevor, if you can. Like I said, I've said a million times over, the feedback has been wonderful for the MRPKC. I got to get used to saying that, but no, it's been fabulous. Like, like you've mentioned, there were a few wrinkles that you guys are sorting out, mostly with the unexpected behavior of some organizations, but I know that we will get there, so it's okay. It's been fabulous, and I do frequent going in there to the weight room specifically often, and I see all the seniors mostly on the track walking, and there's so much use all the time. It's wonderful. So very happy on how active our community is being, and it's great. So with the drop-ins, I think that's wonderful. And I know my daughter will sometimes go to the YMCA for a drop-in program. So if we could continue to do that at different times, I think that would be great because just gives them a little bit something more to do. I did have somebody ask me about the weight room, if there are, if we could consider having kids in high school able to use the weight room. Because again, a lot of kids are in competitive sports. They know how to use the weights and they are probably a little bit more respectful. So if that's a consideration, Trevor, if you want to take that.
Through the chair, yes, we did kind of look around at the ages. Originally, we used to do 16 years of age required. We have lowered that now to 14, which is consistent with the YMCA, and that change has been implemented already now.
Do we have that policy like online? Because I had asked about that for my son actually, and I don't think I got that same answer. Thank you.
Through the chair, you probably didn't get that answer because that is a very recent change. So that change is even as early this week. Yes. So we will do some efforts to communicate that. One thing we are finding is as we open new spaces, we have to be, the staff are working towards getting that stuff on the website and making sure it's something that can be found. So that will be coming, but certainly you can share that change if you'd like as well.
Okay, that's wonderful because I have a resident that's waiting for, I said I would speak to you on this today, so he'll be very happy to hear that. So, okay, that is great. What else was I going to say? One thing that I think you're doing well, and just to always keep in the back of your mind that this is the uses of the room specifically at the MRPKC should be for a number of organizations. So if we can just limit the ability for organizations to claim rooms as their own, just because we need to be flexible on an ongoing basis and, welcoming to lots of different groups and organizations. So just making sure that people are not claiming rooms for themselves. So that's more of a comment than anything, but I think it's all wonderful. So I applaud our staff. I always hear, I just met with somebody last week, and the first thing that, when we were talking about things that people love about Grimsby, like being able, and this is, so what somebody had said is all the community service related stuff happening, being able to take their grandkids to different events. So it's all of your staff. So it's wonderful. All right. Is there anybody else that has a question or a comment? All right. So we will move along then. Resolve that report DCS 2609 Community Services year in review, 2609 Community Services 2608 Community Services Department update, February 26, 2026, dated February 24th, 2026, be received for information. All in favor? Okay, and that is carried. Thank you, Noah. And the final report of the evening is DCS 2609, Community Services 2025 Year in Review Report and 2026 Plans. Can I get a mover and a seconder to get this report on the floor for discussion? Okay, moved by Councillor Howe, seconded by Member Laird. And Sarah, please go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I'll just touch on some of the highlights of this report. I won't go through every single bullet point because there are quite a few, but happy to answer questions if there are any at the end as well. This particular report focuses mostly on capital and operating projects. I am going to work on bringing a report back to you that's more about some of our usage rates because they're really, really strong numbers in that. So you'll see that at a later meeting. So in terms of 2025 projects that were completed, from facilities standpoint, the largest project, of course, would be the MRPKC. We did reach substantial completion in 2025, which is exciting. There is some work being finished up in 2026, but we're really excited to get that open and going. Elizabeth Street Pump House has some significant upgrades to it inside of the building and outside, painting, but also improving some of the heating systems, lighting, and the kitchenette as well. So that's a really great refresh. We did paint the ice pads as well of the Peach King Center. Another big project was doing the consultant work to recommend a new refrigeration system that we will be putting in place in 2026. And then we also did an energy audit of all of our facilities, which identifies as well future projects for efficiencies in reducing fuel consumption. And that did complete milestones 1 and 2 of the Partners for Climate Protection Program. From a parks perspective, the largest project we completed was, of course, the 40 Mile Creek Pedestrian Bridge, which we did in August of 2025. The tree inventory project was another large one that we completed, as well as some staircase work and a wind phone at Centennial Park. In the recreation services area, the user fee study was completed for community services programs, with some of the key outcomes being the new fee methodology that we have put in place, which staff have started to use. We did reach our $1 million goal of Peach King Center sponsorship project for the new MRPKC. And I also have to mention, I think, the International Plow Match, which took quite a bit of time as well of our team and went off exceptionally well. For Culture Service Project, the permanent gallery at the Grimsby Museum was a significant undertaking as well. There is a Grimsby Museum mural that has been completed that will be installed soon. And then we did see the Glam Gala return with good success as well in November. I did not include communications in this report because while it is now part of the community services portfolio, most of those accomplishments occurred before that was the case, and their year review was done through corporate services. In terms of projects that are in progress or new projects, we'll just again touch on a few of them. Obviously, wrapping up the Peach King Center is one of our facilities project. The new tennis clubhouse is actually, we saw today, the relocatable building is more or less completed. So that is anticipated to be installed for their grand opening early May. So you'll see more information coming on that. We are replacing the LED sign at the front of the MRPKC. That will be coming as well. The art gallery library washrooms, which some of you I know have heard of as well. We're happy to say that procurement, we've received the all of the requests for proposals. So that one is just being tidied up so that we can award it, and that work will be completed fairly soon. The refrigeration system replacement, we are working on the tender for that as well. So that is something that we are aiming to do this year. For parks projects, the park sign replacement program is a little bit on hold until we finish the branding work, but then we'll be aiming to get that completed. And we do have quite a number of parks improvements that we are planning in 2026. We just finished, or we're just preparing to award the procurement for 5 playground renewals. That was combining the works from 2025 and 2026 to do it all in one large procurement. It's just a little quicker and simpler for us to do it that way. So that is underway as well. But one of the most significant ones for the parks area will be advancing some of the plans for Whitaker Park and the Pump House Pier. That will be coming back to you as well for seeking some further guidance from committee and council in terms of how we proceed with that design work. And just scrolling through, the corporate climate action plan is progressing well in recreation services area. The Parks Master Plan, of course, we discussed this evening. And then bringing the LAC stuff to you as well. For culture, I know Janet touched earlier on working on the culture services strategic plan. So that will be completed. We're aiming for, I think, the end of June, I think is about where we're aiming to have that one done. The museum will be undertaking a significant portion of work doing some collections cleaning this year. And we're also working on a library memorandum of understanding that will better define the relationship between the Grimsby Public Library and the town of Grimsby. I did mention communications because they are now as well part of community services. So some priorities for them is completing the corporate branding project, which is progressing well, and also developing some policies, including a social media policy and a communications policy for the town of Grimsby. And that's that.
Lots going on. Okay. Any questions from the committee? All right. I am not going to say anything. So that was wonderful. All right. Resolved that report DCS 2609, Community Services 2025 Year in Review Report and 2026 Plans dated February 24th, 2026 be received for information. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. There is no correspondence. Is there any other business pertaining to the committee? No. All right. Our next Community Services Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, March 24th, 2026 at 6:30 PM. And thank you, everyone. The meeting is adjourned.